Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining this webinar about maximizing your productivity with API self-services. My name is Chris Hood. I am a digital engagement lead and transformation strategist with Google, also with Apogee. Please take a moment, write down my email address here. If you have any questions, we'll try to answer some of those at the end of the webinar if we have some time. I think we will have some time, so that would be great to get to some of your questions. Otherwise, if not, you've got my email address. You can reach out to me at any time. I can help you, assist you in the best way I can, but at least you have my email address and we can chat afterwards. Let's get started here. First, I wanted to mention a tool that we use to help assess business and digital maturity. It's called Apogee Compass, and it's designed to measure your company's capabilities across 10 dimensions of digital transformation. And so over the last 2 years or so, we've accumulated best practice data from thousands of companies that use Apogee, and we've compiled those into this tool that you can use to learn how your organization is doing. And so I would also suggest that you write this URL down, compassapogee.com, go off, do the assessment on your own, and learn how your business is doing, and as well get some good feedback on how you can improve your business or become more digitally mature. And part of the assessment is actually a question on self-service. And the question is, what level of self-service is available for developers to use modern APIs across your organization? And the responses, Compass is all multiple choice, 10 questions, all multiple choice. We have no self-service, which is actually pretty common. Our self-service processes are manual with access provided in a week or more. We have a basic self-service process, and a few of our APIs are ready to use within a day, or app developers can get hello world with many of our APIs in less than 5 minutes. Now, I think most of you probably know what the ideal answer to this question is, but we will actually come back to it later and kind of dive into that a little bit more after our webinar. What is self-service? How do we better understand what self-service really means? I'm confident most of you probably have experienced this before, right? In fact, self-service gas stations began materializing probably around the mid-1970s. And for most of us, we probably don't remember full-service gas stations. Well, probably outside of a few of you who might be in Oregon and New Jersey, where there are some laws that require full-service gas stations. But besides the fact, we understand the concept of self-service gas stations. And probably more recently, these have become common in restaurants and convenience stores, movie theaters, even in some offices, Coca-Cola machines with digital screens, a multitude of flavors and options, allowing you to mix and match whatever concoction you want, and ultimately the consumer gets what they want, all self-served. Or, even more recently, we've begun seeing self-service options pop up at grocery stores or even retail shops. And as of around 2013, there were 191,000 self-checkout units like this worldwide, and the number is estimated to reach somewhere around 325,000 units by 2019. Again, we see them everywhere, right? Or at least they're starting to pop up everywhere. But we are also seeing self-service options evolve. And now we see new services and technologies that innovate on that self-service model, allowing customers to shop and purchase from handheld devices or even your own personal device through mobile apps. And all of these technologies are designed to offer customers a quicker, easier option for doing what they want to do to get done faster. That self-service experience, both from the company and the consumer perspectives, is really driving business today. But how does this apply to your business or specifically APIs? We know that APIs are leading transformation. With Apogee, you are able to build new types of connected experiences, your ability to meet consumers where they are, right, through those APIs. You become more agile, and your speed to market increases. It also allows us to open up new business models, collaborating with partners, and combine different types of offers, monetizing your data and those digital assets, and launch new business models quickly. Right? And if we can do all of those things, how are we going to do it in a self-service way to empower your developers to deliver those new capabilities more quickly? And if we do that, in theory, we have happy customers. And happy customers allows us to get to organizational value within your business faster, right? Happy customers equals organizational value. So let's look at a few ways we can generate self-service for your API specifically. Most companies are faced with this challenge. The rate of change and updates at the ESB layer or your back-end services are often very slow. Your systems of records take time, sometimes taking months or longer to update. And you can't keep up with the demands that the customers have. On the top, your customers expect new digital experiences to be available in days. And we see that. We see that with a lot of metrics, even with things as simple as loading a website or a mobile app. And if it takes longer than a few minutes, a few seconds to load, you're often getting frustrated and moving on to another website. So how do we kind of balance these two speeds? And Apogee actually allows us to do that through being able to have a gateway in place to secure and scale and manage, analyze, and connect all of those systems together. Apogee can balance that pace of change between your back-end systems and your front-end digital experiences, allowing you, again, to be able to keep up with the demands of your consumers. And enterprises need to create great developer experiences to build that ecosystem for their APIs. A great API developer experience then includes things like having great API products, which we will get into here in a moment, a great API developer portal so that you can basically build a storefront for your API products, and great developer enablement. Developers need those resources to support the APIs. And we're going to cover each one of these buckets in today's webinar. So let's start with looking at a great developer experience. One of the key elements in a great developer experience is enabling self-service, making it easy to get started, reducing the time for a Hello API, documentation, sample code. These are all going to be themes that we continuously repeat today. But in addition to that great developer experience with self-service, we also have feedback loops, allowing those developers to share with us their opinions and pain points, as well as using metrics to understand how our API program is performing, as well as how our developers are using our API. All of this creates that great developer. So let's look a little bit about APIs as products first. And really, we tend to ask you to treat your APIs like you would any other product in your organization, with its own life cycle that includes designing your APIs and documenting those APIs, marketing those APIs so that developers can find them, discover them, and use them, and of course analyzing them so that you can iterate on that design and repeat that life cycle. Also, API design is critical as part of the self-service model. APIs need to be understandable. How do you remove complexity out of that API? Oftentimes we see companies building APIs with a lot of internal references or proprietary type of terminology that really doesn't make sense to a developer, especially an outside developer that may want to consume or use that API. If it's not understandable, then again, that developer becomes frustrated. You also want your APIs to be useful and credible and available. And when we talk about availability, we're talking about specifically centralizing those APIs using a portal to support that API first vision, reduce time to market, foster collaboration throughout the entire organization. And again, we're going to dive into all of these topics in a little bit more detail. So some of the best practices around self-service or around building that developer experience is first, acquisition. Follow the 5-5-5 rule, a value proposition to demonstrate why your APIs are going to be valuable for those developers, showcasing some of your APIs, and make it easy to get started, right? You can also do events like hackathons to acquire more developers. We'll talk about that soon. The 5-5-5 rule is really about taking the first 5 seconds to grab somebody's attention on your dev portal. The next 5 seconds is to build interest, to kind of demonstrate that you have APIs that are going to help them innovate for you. And then the next 5 is actually 5 minutes to help you get to hello world. How fast can you get a developer onto your dev portal and get them to a hello world response using your APIs? That's acquisition. Documentation, making sure that you have everything documented and available for your developers to get to. Product documentation, sample codes with request and response, and maybe even a sandbox where they can play around with that sample code. Libraries, SDKs, technical reference materials, and even tutorials are all going to help that developer have a good experience, find what they need, self-service, so that they can begin producing applications for you. And of course, self-service, again, considering a developer sandbox where they can play in with your APIs, right? Maximizing that information that they are looking for or minimizing information required for them to access the APIs, and simplify the entire registration process. Consider any website that you register for. They ask more questions. How likely are you to fill it all out? I know personally when I get to a website and as soon as it says enter your credit card information, I'm ejecting. I'm off to another product that's not asking me for my credit card information. That doesn't mean that you don't need that credit card information or that you don't need all of the information. It's in what order do you request it. In some cases, you may just need a name and an email address to get started. That gets them into the system using your APIs and building that interest in 5 seconds. Then you can ask for more information at a later date once they've invested in their interest. And finally, support. You want to be able to support your developers through getting started guides, FAQs, forums where they can ask questions and interact with the community. Build a community with blogs and information about your APIs and what you're trying to do as an organization. And of course, contact information so they can reach out to you with help, right? Again, all of these things are self-served. And I like to think of it in a different way, that if we make happy developers, then you're going to be able to reach that organizational value faster. Because the key here is that with happy developers, they are developing and innovating new digital experiences for you that your customers are asking for. And if we make our customers happy, then we get organizational value. So happy developers equals organizational value faster. Here's one of our customers, Eleanor. They joined us a little while ago, and through building different types of services, getting their dev portal in place, using Apogee, they were able to produce significant year-over-year revenue through monetizing those resources and encouraging API innovation through their dev portal specifically. So a good example, we've got more information about Telenor on our website, so you can go look. So let's look at dev portal specifically now. The digital value chain is something that we talk a lot about at Apogee, and it's really the opportunity to understand how your consumer is interacting with the services that you're offering. And so in this picture, you can see that the consumer is interacting with applications or digital experiences that are produced by developers who are using your APIs through an API gateway like Apogee that is managed by an API team that is interacting with your back end. That's the digital value chain. And we specifically, in the self-service arena, look at the developer here. And we often hear from companies that they believe a developer community is restricted to only external developers. But in reality, successful companies include everyone, treating both internal and external developers in the same way, while also engaging with customers, the API teams, the partners, the stakeholders, in order to build a thriving self-service community. The dev portal, and as part of the dev portal, we have two primary users. We have developers, which make up the community of users that build applications or digital experiences by using those APIs. And app developers use the portal to learn about your API through the documentation and the registration of the accounts, which we've talked about. And then we also have the API team, and they are the API providers that create the portal content, makes their APIs available to the app developers, provides the API documentation, and provides a mechanism for developers to register and obtain API keys. The API team performs the basic configurations for the developer portal. Okay? And you can see on this chart kind of, again, developers on the left, API team on the right, and what they are basically managing for each other. I'm not going to get a lot into the API team. The good news for you is that we actually did a webinar on API team and all of the roles within that API team, their capabilities and what they skill set. So here's a link. You can jot it down. The YouTube link may be hard to jot down. Take a screenshot, go back and look at it, and feel free to take your time and listen to that webinar on API teams. It's very insightful for anyone who's looking to build out your team to support an API program. We also have three basic types of APIs. We have internal, public, and partner-based APIs. Internal APIs are only available to organizations internally, internal application developers, or internal uses, maybe something like HR types of APIs, right? Public APIs are visible to all application developers, and then partner-based APIs are available to those application developers with explicit permission or some type of relationship based on data or experiences that they are producing on your behalf. And all of these developers and APIs can be served through the developer portal. The developer portal enables app developers to learn about your data and service offerings and learn how to use your APIs, your documentation, your sample code, right? Everything that we've talked about. We have an Apogee, an integrated portal that comes with Apogee that's easy to set up, and you can basically launch your APIs and your API products within moments of configuring it. And the good news is with our integrated developer portal, you can quickly customize that portal to best fit your APIs or your company's brand and provide the necessary information for your developer community. So you can customize the logo, the headers, the menu items, the background, and because it's integrated with Apogee Edge, as soon as you produce your API product along with your documentation, that can be automatically entered into your developer portal so that your developers, again, both internal, external, as well as partner developers, can immediately access, register, and begin using your APIs. Again, self-serve. Here's an example of one of our customers, Ticketmaster. It's a great example of a fully customized self-serve developer portal. You can see that as soon as you log in, and their page is available at developers.ticketmaster.com, so you can go look at it yourself and play with it a little bit. But you'll notice that as soon as you log in, there is a link, a button in the middle there that says "Get your API key." Then you can review documentation and explore the APIs. There is very limited barrier to entry to begin accessing and using their APIs. Get your API key, register, and begin using it. You'll also see, and I know the screen is probably a little dark for some of you, but and again, I encourage you to go check out their portal. It's publicly available. When you select their API products and documentation drop-down, they have a wide range of tools for developers, including their open API products. They have partner APIs. They have SDKs, widgets, and tutorials, all available there for you to play with and learn, right? So we're exciting them within 5 seconds. That's key. And they're able to go get what they want on their own and begin to interact and use their API. That's the concept. So AccuWeather, again, another one of our customers, is a great example of how a developer portal can make your company extremely successful. Upon launching their developer portal, AccuWeather had over 6,500 developers sign up in the first 2 months. And nearly 2,500 of those developers created API keys and began to build applications on behalf of AccuWeather. And they're processing close to 30 billion plus API requests per day because of that. So again, a good example how the dev portal can help maximize your productivity and can actually help generate new lines of business and grow your business all through self-service dev portals. The point isn't, though, merely to expose those systems. It's to create an interface that lets developers reliably leverage assets to create those new apps and digital experiences. Managing APIs as products, which we've talked about, involves offering those self-service features that enables developers to quickly access the resources they need. Adoption of those operating models for supporting agile development and supporting evangelism and other marketing strategies to promote your APIs will actually help you become a more digitally mature organization. No matter how frictionless you are, at some point the API developers and software development lifecycle will intersect with your registration and app creation processes. Your sandbox should be very low barrier to entry, but it needs to be as frictionless as possible to encourage adoption and use of your API. Building a successful API program will start by creating a vibrant community around it. And when we look at that vibrant community, you have to ask things like, do you have a developer portal, right, which we've already been talking about, to support your community? What does your developer onboarding process look like? How quickly can developers obtain that API key and connect to your APIs? Where will developers get answers when they encounter issues? And what KPIs will you track to determine if your API program is successful? Evangelizing internally and externally is going to be a great way to grow your API program. So here's an example of a lot of things that you can do, from events like going to conferences or even sponsoring events, hosting a dev jam internally. That's going to increase awareness of your API program. It's going to get people involved. Webinars, right? Doing community types of functions, blog posts, online forums, mock data for your APIs, focus groups to learn what your developers are looking for or need, as well as internal opportunities, brainstorming sessions and interviews with stakeholders, building out prototypes, building communities of practice to understand how things are working. These are all ways to evangelize and grow your API program and to improve how you self-service those developers. Another way to look at it is through a basic funnel system. If I want to adopt my API program and get more developers involved, then you might start with something like this funnel, which we talked about at the start. How do you excite your developers? If you have anonymous developers arriving at your developer portal, how do you excite them with the information so that in 5 seconds they become registered developers? And when they become registered developers and you empower them, they can get an API key. And if they request that API key, they become key requesters, right? And now you've entrusted them with a little bit more access to your APIs. And then upon actually using that API key and building an application, they've become engaged developers. And you can track the difference between developers who have actually requested APIs and have started using that API key versus developers who have requested an API key and haven't really done anything with it. Again, that's the funnel. And then once they have actually built an application and they've published that application, those registered developers who have published their apps on your behalf, you have enabled them to further help you grow and adopt other developers. This is a great example of a basic, again, funnel and different KPIs that you can track to determine if you are self-serving them properly. Because each one of these steps should be self-service. You should not be involved with any of these things, ideally. And so we go back to the tips for a vibrant community. Excite and educate developers about your API program, right? Develop the portal for everyone, both internal and external. Demonstrate your program and consume your own APIs. That's one of the big things at Google. Even in Apogee, our entire Apogee Edge is built on APIs that we consume ourselves. Empower your developers to build those new experiences for you more quickly, and trust those developers with easy access and self-service tools. Continue to engage the community to support their needs and cultivate an API ecosystem, specifically with passionate partners that you may have, especially those companies that are B2B. And know what your KPIs are so that you can continually grow your community and iterate on those self-service tools. Here's an idea of some of the ways that you can measure and track your API programs or your APIs. Some very basic things like the number of APIs. The speed to API, you should be able to track how fast can a developer actually get to an API, register for an API key, make an API call, and get to a hello world API response. The quality of your APIs. You should also look at the business impact, direct revenue as a result of your API, the breadth of business and the growth of your business as a result of your APIs, cost reduction, growth of traffic, pretty easy one to track. Adoption, the number of apps that you are producing or that your developers are producing on your behalf. The number of partners that you get, the number of customers that you get through those applications that are being produced, the number of developers that you have on your platform through your developer portal. In theory, if you have a fully self-service dev portal, that number of developers should go up in the example of like AccuWeather. But if you have a poor developer experience, or you have a lot of barriers to entry, or your information is not clear, or it's very hard to get to a API response, then in theory, your developers are going to not register and you're not going to have a lot of developers on your platform. You should be able to measure and track that. Pitney Bowes, another great example, another great customer of ours, and they were able to actually track the reduction of time to market for new application development from 18 months to 4 months, all because of a self-service dev portal. That is the key takeaway from Pitney Bowes. Imagine being able to get new applications in place from 18 months down to 4 months at your organization because you had a dev portal that shared your API products that internal and external developers could understand, get to, and immediately begin to build new applications. So how does your business rank? It takes us back to the original conversation around our Apogee Compass. Successful developer self-service efforts unlock efficiencies in product development life cycles and attract higher caliber talent. We saw that with the Pitney Bowes example just a moment ago. So what's the question again? Self-service. What level of self-service is available for developers to use modern APIs across your organization? And if you remember, there were a multiple choice answers. App developers can get Hello World with many of your APIs in less than 5 minutes. Companies use Apogee's customizable framework to build self-service portals that let developers get up and running with APIs in minutes. But a portal really is only the start. To truly unlock digital strategies, the entire product development lifecycle should be agile, such that technical teams feel empowered to constantly deliver new products and drive success for the enterprise. These strategies are designed to maximize the productivity of your API teams and developers, to quickly get them onboarded, using your APIs and developing or innovating for your business. Ultimately, allowing your business to keep up to the speed with consumers' demands, changing markets, and partner opportunities. So hopefully you can see why self-service, especially in your API program, is critical. It's one of those things that a lot of companies don't pay a lot of attention to immediately, but it really is one of the determining factors in productivity and making your organization successful by keeping up with the demands that your consumers have. With that is all I have. We do have some questions here. If you have questions, feel free to enter them in. I will go through some of these as quickly as I can, or answer what I can. We've got several. Let's see here. When it comes to developer experience with respect to analytics versus monetization, how it differs other than money aspect in monetization. When it comes to developer experience with respect to analytics versus monetization, how does it differ other than money? Not entirely positive what you are trying to get to in that, but when we look at developer experience specifically from an analytical point of view, like we showed metrics, you really want to make sure that you are delivering the experience for developers that they expect. If I can only respond with an understanding of each of our own individual experiences. I believe most of you have gone either to a website or to purchase something in a store or any number of things. We use the grocery store as an example. I think one of the reasons why self-service checkouts became popular was not only so that, in theory, a grocery store can reduce the amount of hours for their staff, but imagine going in, there's long lines and people with a lot of items, and you have the express checkout and it's like 1 to 10 items, and you got that one person who has 12 items in the express lane, and you're thinking, I only got 2 items, and oh, hey, here's a self-checkout. And so that experience for you changes, right? Your frustration levels go down. We've gone to websites and we've tried to learn about a product, and either that product description is poor or the ordering process is bad, and we get frustrated and we eject. We go off to another store or find another product that suits our needs. And when it comes to that analytics, I think it really boils down to being able to track that experience for developers to ensure that they are finding what they want, the documentation is clear and updated and makes sense, it's understandable, so that they can get to your APIs and they can begin using them as quickly as possible. That's what I would say. So this is basically about the presentation. Again, a reminder, we are recording this. We will make that available. That will be sent out to you. There are some resources and ebooks here as well. There are some links for that. The biggest thing I would recommend is there's an entire community, both on YouTube and on our website, that have all of this information. If there is something specific that you're looking for, feel free to email me. Again, my email address is chrishood@google.com. I can try to find resources specifically that you're looking for. We have ebooks, we have webinars. All of that is available through a simple Google search. But if there is something specific you are looking for, feel free to reach out to me and I'll help you find it. Let's see, another question in here. How often or how soon should an API be published into the developer portal? Is it better to place a less than polished API into the dev portal sooner? That's actually a great question. So my answer would be, as soon as you have something that is production ready, yes, send it, share it. And that's because I firmly believe in the concepts of fail fast, right? And learn from those failures, and then iterate on those failures. So if you have something that is not polished, an API product that works but is not polished, send it out, and I guarantee you the developers who are using it will send you feedback. Take that feedback, iterate, especially in an agile methodology, iterate on that API and republish it. Those companies that tend to wait until the API is perfect tend to miss out on opportunities, because now you're waiting until you have something perfected, which could take months. And during that time, that months, you could have had developers actually using the API and supplying you feedback and innovating using that API. So again, the short answer is I would submit it and publish it as soon as possible, and then iterate upon it as needed as you learn more. Okay? Can I use Apogee Gateway with other portals, non-Drupal portal? Another good question. So the answer is yes. I could end it there, but I won't. So there are basically a couple of different options. You have the integrated portal that comes included inside of Apogee Edge. We have a Drupal-based portal. So Drupal is a content management system. We have basically a plugin that connects Apogee with Drupal so that you can build out a Drupal experience and interface with Apogee. And because Apogee Gateway is built using APIs, There are some organizations that have decided to either use some type of internal web tool or CMS that they already have in place and they already have the resources for, and they've integrated that with Apogee, such as like WordPress or Adobe. Again, all you're doing is you're going to have to take those APIs, you're going to have to build out that experience within your portal, and you're done, right? I would say, just for additional context, the integrated portal is the easiest. It's out of the box, it's ready to use, minimal customization, and you're good to go. Drupal, there's the plugin that allows you to connect to Apogee. There's a lot of customization work, though, within Drupal. So, you're talking about a little bit more medium. And then, obviously, if you do something that's not integrated and not Drupal, then that's going to be the most level of effort. Is there any ways to find how many unique developers consuming the same API using same keys, or each developer needs different API keys, analytics, et cetera? So inside of Apogee, an app developer would register to get an API key. Each one of those API keys are going to have their own analytics so that you can track what that particular API key and what that particular developer is doing, right? And within Apogee, we also have developer analytics. So that funnel system that I showed with the 5 E's going down, we have something very similar to that embedded inside of Apogee, so that you can actually see how many developers are registering, how many developers are accessing API keys, how many are producing applications with those API keys. So that's all available. And again, the analytics side can track based on, those keys as well. Okay. And let's see, any other questions in here? We've got most of the questions answered. There are a few other questions that are popping up. Like I said, I would recommend that if you had specific, more technical questions, you can reach out to me. If you've got a question or a need regarding resources or materials, content specific, also you can reach out to me. That's probably the best course of action there. And that's all I've got. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. Hopefully you found this information interesting and exciting, and you found a way that you can make your organization more productive by maximizing self-service tools. Thank you. Have a great day.